Otherwise, I'm recording.
Cool.
Don't say anything
Woo!
stupider than usual.
Otherwise, we can edit that out. All right. Yeah, so DAO House. Here we are. Essentially, DAOs are cool, right? And so what we're going to talk about today is why we're excited about DAOs, like why we're spending all this time helping to design them, build them, help people use them, etc. How DAO House works, like what makes DAO House unique relative to all the other places you could go for your various DAO needs. And then we'll talk about some of the cool DAOs on the platform, right? Because as Ben said, DAOs are really all about community. It's about people coming together to do cool stuff. So it's really all about the people. And we've got a bunch of really cool people on DAO House doing really cool things. So we'll kind of go over that and then answer any questions you guys have and just kind of go from there. Okay, so yeah, DAOs. Essentially, since the beginning of time, humans have been coordinating, right? What makes us kind of special is that we can imagine things that aren't immediately in our environment, and then we can use language to describe those things, and we can form a plan about a thing that's not happening right now, and then we can go do that thing. Most animals just react to their immediate environment. We can actually plan ahead and make plans together and coordinate together to do things that we couldn't do on our own. This enabled us as weak little humans to overcome woolly mammoths and other large things. It's also enabled us to kind of dominate the world. Good news, bad news, who can say, but it's working. So if coordination is the killer human app, then how do we take human coordination to the next level? We've got like all these things that have come up where humans have formed agreements via tribal relationships, then via more complicated, governments and etchings in stone, and then courts and papers and all these things. Now we have the internet. That's been really cool. We can like talk about all sorts of things, but it's been really hard to enforce agreements if you don't have, guns and taxes. So now for the first time, we have this thing called blockchain, which allows us to create agreements that can be verified and enforced via cryptographic code that's deterministic and trustless, rather than relying on a subjective group of people who enforce their world via guns and taxes. So so that's pretty great. So we're like, oh, cool. So we can take all these agreements and things we've been doing, and we can enforce them via a distributed ledger that everyone trusts, and everyone can verify that things will happen the way that we say they will, and that can allow us to coordinate across boundaries on a global level. So now for the first time, communities can come together, they can do cool stuff, they can coordinate capital, they can make decisions, and they can do so in a way where the infrastructure empowers them to do so without having to trust any central party or any one person. So this opens the span of things we can do and coordinate around greatly. So for example, someone wrote this contract a while back called Moloch, and what it allows you to do is coordinate a bunch of capital together in a pool, and then vote on how to allocate that capital. And if you disagree with what's going on, you could pull your capital out. But if you're good with things, you can keep your capital in. You have a voice in decision-making in that pool relative to the amount of capital you provided. Normally, we would need a third party or an escrow contract or something to deal with this. But with blockchain code, it just works. We just throw it in there. So that's really cool. So now we can coordinate across boundaries using the internet and blockchains to coordinate capital to support awesome things we care about. And that's pretty amazing. And so we really think that's going to change the world, and that's going to enable people to do all sorts of amazing things. So because we think that's great, we built this platform called DAO House, and it's essentially a house for DAOs. So if you think about it, right, like there's these contracts that run on Ethereum. That's cool. That's kind of like the groundwork. That's the foundation, and that's great. But to have a house, you need a structure, you need a frame, you need like some windows, you need all the stuff, right? So DAO House is like a house for DAOs. So the contracts on the back end, there's a user interface, there's a community, there's services to support you. There's all the things you need to really like live in your DAO, to really experience your DAO to the fullest. And so we kind of built this for ourselves, really, because we just love DAOs and wanted more DAOs to help us coordinate and do cool things. If you go on the DAO House website, you'll see a bunch of DAOs that we launched back in the day. Like there's one called James DAO for Jameses. If your name's James, you're in the DAO. Congratulations. So yeah, we just love DAOs. We launched a bunch of them and needed a platform to help us do that. And then we realized like, this could be really helpful for more people. So we really want to make it easy for people to come to DAO House and use this, crypto-economic social coordination mechanism to do cool stuff together. And so that's what DAO Haus is all about. And we're organized as a DAO. We built a platform that helps people launch DAOs, and we pretty much just do DAO stuff all day long. So yeah, that's the TLDR of kind of like why we're here. We want to help communities coordinate to do amazing things, and to do so in a way that goes beyond just talking about stuff, but actually managing funds, creating sustainable projects, etc. And so, yeah, to kind of lead by example, we'll talk about the DAO that we've launched to help build DAO Haus, and then we'll talk about some of the other DAOs on the platform. But before I dive into that, do you guys have any questions or comments or stuff around like DAOs and stuff in general? Cool. Awesome. All right. So yeah, DAOs are pretty cool. And so DAO Haus, right, we're organized as a DAO. And so what we did is we engaged the community, all the people who have been helping to launch DAOs, talk about DAOs, design DAOs, etc. All the different people on the platform. And we formed a DAO called Haus DAO to build DAO Haus. And essentially, people are contributing their time, their capital, their energy to help build this platform for all of us. And so we coordinated together, took a couple of months to kind of figure it out. We've recently kind of coordinated the DAO, and now we're using it to do various things like add new features, engage the community, do talks like this, etc. And so the process on the mechanism side is pretty simple, right? You just have a DAO, people coordinate capital in, and there's some fancy things around how we allocate tokens that give people a proof of contribution, but essentially like you're just using a mechanism to pool capital together that make decisions together. And that DAO is kind of like the hub. And then around it, we've got like a Discord server where we like, have different threads around like product, around like, user guides, marketing, community engagement, etc. And that kind of gives us a hub to then organize builds together. And then we, use our time and resources to then do cool stuff. And then we all have a say in it, right? So we can all vote on what we think is a good idea, what direction we want to move forward. And then as more people contribute, then they will also get a say in that process. And so it's really a DAO that builds DAOs by and for the community. It's all of us working together, pooling our resources to help build this platform that we use, but that can also help other people. So yeah, very high level view of Haus DAO. And so the idea then is like, okay, cool. So like, we're using this, but then who else is using it, right? Because we really want to make this like more accessible to more people, right? So we also have a bunch of awesome DAOs on the platform. And so what I'll do now is just kind of like walk you guys through what the platform looks like and some of the cool DAOs. And we'll start with mainnet, and then we'll move over to XDai because, as you guys know, mainnet is too damn expensive. And so we are slowly but surely migrating across the chasm to the XDai chain. So yeah, okie doke. Let me share my screen. Boom. You guys see my screen? Super cool screen. Woo! Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, here's DAO Haus. Do you guys see it? Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, great. So as you can see, DAO Haus is now available on XDai because transaction fees are super bummer. But on XDai, it's faster and cheaper, which is great. So you can click here and go to XDai, and we'll do that in a second. But yeah, first, like the general gist of DAO Haus is like, it's magic internet communities for everyone, right? Like anyone can come together, coordinate, have a club, whether that club reads books or makes investments, it doesn't really matter. It's a way for people to coordinate and do cool things together. So that's what DAOs are all about, right? Share goals, share money, share power. So it's really important because like in our world, most of the inequalities we see are because power is incredibly imbalanced. And in a capitalist society, that's amplified by disparities in wealth, right? So there's some people who have a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of influence, and there's a bunch of people who don't. And there's kind of a movement that emerged to help address this, mainly around cooperatives, where like everyone gets together and they do a thing, and they all have a vote in the thing, and they share in the profits. And it's like, it's kind of like a company, but it's kind of like a community. it's like a cooperative. And you actually look in the Wikipedia definition of cooperatives, and they're like decentralized autonomous cooperatives. Like that, they literally kind of fucking say it. And so DAOs is a way to create that on the blockchain, right? Where everyone who's a part of a DAO has a voice. They have a stake in the success of the entity. They all share goals and power together to really create something by and for the people. And so there's a bunch of awesome DAOs on the platform. Metacartel is essentially a digital nation for Web3. People who love Web3 come together, hang out, talk about Web3, build Web3, push forward the boundaries of Web3. Got Raid Guild. It's a cooperative of builders. We build stuff for fun and profit. Metagame at Delta. It's a female-led sorority DAO. It's super cool. Venture DAO makes investments. MachiX has art. Tons of cool things. So we'll dive into that in a second. And so, the idea is just like, we want to make it possible for people from all over with all sorts of goals to use this mechanism to coordinate together to do cool things. So here, if we go to explore, we'll see there are many people doing many cool things. Maybe. Yes. Haha. Okay, great. So here we'll jump into Metacartel. Enter the DAO. Dun, dun, dun. Woo! Metacartel. Okay, so they have this fun little thing here where you can see their guild bank value. And you can see here there's a bunch of members that joined, so the guild bank went up, and then they allocated a bunch of grants to support Web3 teams and projects. So the guild bank went down, but the actual value creation went up. So that's very cool. You can see like their proposals here of like all the things they supported to help the community engage in lots of cool stuff. You can see there's different like proposals that are in like the grace period, voting period, completed, etc. But it's just a place for the community to coordinate and then kind of figure out how to turn this pile of capital into cool value creation to move forward Web3. So Metacartel does. There's also a bunch more DAOs here that are also exciting. So we'll look at where's like MetaClan? That's exciting. Oh, Wirearn. This is an exciting one. So here, the Wi-Fi community, they got together and built a DAO. And essentially, like if you have Wi-Fi and you want to coordinate to engage in Wi-Fi governance with other people, you can pool your Wi-Fi together. And they've got 2 Wi-Fi, which is worth quite a bit these days, actually. And they got some proposals, to say like, hey, here's what we want to do. Here's some, etc. So it's another one where it's like, people are coordinating together, their shared interest in this protocol. And then they've got like, a governance forum off chain where they organize and they can use the DAO to vote and stuff. Whether it's an investment club or like a protocol governance play, or whether you want to build stuff like Raid Guild. Let's see, where's the Raid Guild war chest? Raid Guild is a very cool one here. Raid Guild, there we go. Nope, Raid Guild.
Oh yeah, war chest.
There you go.
Right. There it is. Okay, great. Thanks. So then here we go. We've got Raid Guild, right? Build stuff. So essentially, we build things for fun and profit. And you can see we've got a bunch of different tokens from different members and projects we've supported. We have a bunch of proposals that are outlined, like all the stuff we've built or done for members, etc. We'll load in a minute. This is kind of cool, right? So you can see like it's pretty simple. You got new members, you got projects like a token bridge, you got all this stuff. And so all the information is totally transparent, available to all the members. Everyone who's a member has a voice in all of this. It's just like a hub for the community to coordinate. It's kind of cool. Like you can theme it, with your custom themes. You can have little pictures and things. It's like a little kind of community hub for the community to make decisions together. And this is really important because making decisions is really hard. So earlier I was talking about how coordination is the killer human. It's what allowed us to overcome insurmountable difficulties to do things that we could never do alone. But it's a double-edged sword in that human decision-making, especially in groups, is also the hardest thing for humans to do. So it's what's enabled us to succeed, but it's also the thing that we're the worst at, which is kind of weird. So DAOs are like a place for the community to make decisions together in a way that's open, verifiable, trustless, and meritocratic. So for the most important decisions, the community can do that via this structure, and that can help them coordinate and organize and move forward to do great things like Ragequit, building all sorts of cool, awesome projects in the world. Okay. So yes, that's some of the DAOs on mainnet, and then we'll jump over to XDai. But before we do, does anyone have any questions? Questions, comments, observations?
I mean, I have a ton of questions, but maybe it makes sense to land.
All right, after XDai, we'll jump into your questions.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, if we go to XDai, we will see it's the same. Woohoo! So essentially, like XDai is awesome because it's just like a fork of Ethereum, right? So everything that runs on Ethereum runs on XDai. It's pretty much the same, except it's faster and cheaper. The security assumptions are a bit different too, but like it's pretty much all the same. So you'll just have to change your network in MetaMask to, or whatever wallet you use to point to XDai. But otherwise, everything's pretty much the same, right? Same communities, same stuff, etc. But there also is a different set of DAOs, right? So like it's still like community oriented, still all the things. But some DAOs are deployed on mainnet because they need more security or whatever, and some are on XDai because it's more fun, it's more awesome, and they're here instead. So check out Explore. We'll see some of the cool XDai DAOs. There's a few, not quite as many as on mainnet because like XDai is newer, right? So people have just been migrating over in the last few weeks because it's just like $50, $100 to do DAO stuff right now. Like, not even launch a DAO, just engage in a DAO. If you want to launch one, hundreds of dollars. So on XDai, it's like 10 cents. So we've got this one called Federalist Papers Club, and essentially it's a book club. We hang out once a week and we read old government documents. Like for real. And every time you show up to a book club, you get a share. So if you look here, like different members have different shares, right? And they tribute a little into the DAO just because, but you get shares based on how often you show up. So the people who show up will have more shares and they can use those shares to engage in votes or whatever. And it's really just a proof of knowledge. It's like, yeah, you read the paper, you showed up, you talked about it, cool.
I think I'm the only one in the anti-federalist right now.
Really? There should be more. You're the only one anti-federalist?
You want to go sponsor my proposal while you're in there?
Okay, so we have a Federalist Papers Club and we have an Anti-Federalist Papers Club, which you can see.
Oh,
Here
yeah.
it is. Okay, great. So yeah, so on alternating weeks, we read the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. So when you show up to those, you get, votes. So I think Anti-Federalist has some proposals to be processed. Here's one ready for processing. Deacon, great. Needs to be processed. But yeah, so the idea is like, it's just a club. We hang out, we give each other shares based on proof of knowledge, and that's it. So DAOs can be as simple as that, or they can be as complex as like, a venture DAO that's like a whole venture capital firm on the blockchain. And it's really cool because this like simple system you see here with shares and proposals and etc. scales all the way up to that, or it just works for a book club. Like it's great for both. So yeah, it's kind of magical, all the things you can do with this simple kind of coordination mechanism. And so yeah, what we want to do here with DAO Haus is enable more communities to come together to do cool things, and for DAOs to empower them to do that, and to essentially just kind of help communities go to the next level with DAOs. So yeah. Now, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I'll start. So thanks for putting this together. It's very interesting. This looks like this is in essence like a DAO for dummies kind of approach. Is that a good way to look at it?
Well, kind of. So we try to make it as simple as possible, right? Because we want it to be really easy for people to focus on the cool things that they're doing, not to have to be a developer or focus on the technology. Like if the technology does its job, it fades into the background. It's all about the
Okay.
That
Yeah,
being said, like,
I kind of look at it like my first Sony of DAOs or something. It's just made to so you can get in and get going quickly with your community. The technology part doesn't need to be like the big hurdle that everyone is struggling with. It should just be the part that is helping limit those coordination costs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
perfect. Yeah, that's what I mean. The word dumb is not intended to, reduce the reduce the complexity of what's underneath it.
We do want to write a DAO for Dummies book, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So the next question is: I see everybody's jumping on the POA network now. Just curious, the sidebar: have you guys seen what's the health of the network right now? Have you seen number of trusted validators going up on that network, and how's the scalability aspect of it now that everybody's trying to migrate?
Yeah, so scalability is still good. Running DAOs that went up for 10 cents, voting costs like fractions of a penny, so that's awesome. For validators, yeah, that's something we're working on. We're exploring becoming a validator ourselves, and lots of other people are becoming validators too, so that's awesome. So the validator set is rising, the amount of assets secured is rising, and the amount of people just using the chain in general is rising. So yeah, everything's looking good as far as I know, but maybe Deacon or Ben or someone can weigh in on that in a little more detail. I don't know, but as far as I know, it's great.
Another cool thing to check out is just their roadmap in general. So they've been around for 2 years. They've been doing a lot of good work with Ethereum, very aligned with Ethereum, and their roadmap. They're in a delegated proof of stake right now, and they're going into more of a public delegated proof of stake. They're bringing in BFT kind of stuff later. There's a lot of like cool things happening along the way. I mean, that's kind of the story with all the L2s, is that there's this and this and this happening. But I think with XDai, what we've seen is that they actually make it happen, and they've been around long enough to have some faith that those things will continue.
Yeah, for sure. So, do you envision? Probably have not tried it right now, but do you also envision for DAO to start an XDai chain, then go back to mainnet? Do you envision any issues with that transition?
It's totally possible. We have DAOs that are migrating from mainnet to XDai right now for obvious reasons with gas, but it makes a lot of sense. Like if a DAO grows up to be having a bank of millions of dollars, that it may want to change the security model to mainnet, and that kind of migration can happen. It's fairly manual right now. We're looking into ways to make it more kind of simple, like the rest of the stuff here, just one click and migrate.
Okay, cool. So did I hear clearly, accurately, that MetaCartel and others are actually using your platform and build their DAOs on your platform? I assume you guys are part of that network as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, DAO Haus MetaCartel. Yeah, I mean, originally DAO Haus was built for MetaCartel. Basically, it started with this interface right here. That was the very first interface because they forked the Moloch DAO contracts. And there was no interface at all to interact with those contracts. So this Pokemon, which is like the actual interface inside of the DAO, that was literally built just for that community. And then other people, started being like, oh, you guys are coordinating like in a lot of like really interesting ways. So then other people started forking Moloch code. So then that was very difficult. You need to be a developer. And some of us were like supporting people trying to deploy contracts and things. So then at ETH Berlin last year, we just built DAO Haus to deploy as like a no-code platform, basically to deploy the Moloch contracts. So it really is like, started out built for the community, by the community, and it somehow is still that, which is nice.
Okay, so go ahead.
So we started with the Moloch v1, and that's what this MetaCartel DAO was on. They've now gone to Moloch v2, so we now support that as well. The Moloch contracts are kind of the DAO for dummies, kind of one. It's the minimum viable DAO, so it's easy to work with, easy to. There's a lot of interesting experiments just always going on around expanding its use cases and extending it in different ways. We've got Moloch V2X, which the LexDAO and Moloch Mystics groups have been working on, and we'll be supporting that soon too. So, and then Moloch V3, there's some really crazy things that'll happen there. So, lots of kind of cool things happening.
Okay, cool. This is great. So for the voting, and pardon me being so naive here, but so the voting itself, it's part of the contract, right? So if somebody comes in and says, I want to create a DAO on this using the platform, are there different like voting plugins, like quadratic voting or other algorithms for voting? Can that be specified at DAO creation, or is it? Maybe you can tell, like, what are the options for like voting types and how the votes are distributed? Can that be preset, or is it all kind of in a template that one size fits all?
Yeah, we're going towards the full no-code versions, you know, and like looking into like how modular we can, because yeah, the Moloch code is super simple and battle tested, but to Deacon's point, yeah, it can be extended in numerous ways. So that's where we're going. Right now, the basic parameters for launching a DAO are more basically just how fast you want to move and how expensive you want membership to be. That's pretty much it. Yeah, like yeah, if you were to go to like the summon page, you would see like there's some various like archetypes that we've set for like that we've seen real communities use for their settings, like you know, guilds or like you know, venture DAOs with like much larger funds, for example. They typically want like a longer voting period so that people have a more you know, likely opportunity to like to vote or whatever, because they're larger amounts of funds. But for right now, it's pretty much just that, just like how long you want your voting period to be, and you know, how much you want your membership to be. But yeah, going forward, there's plenty of like quadratic. Yeah, there's lots of different extensions to the Moloch contracts that have been deployed by the community. So in the future, yeah, we'll be looking to like move those into the platform so that they can, you can just do that, as you say, just select at the time of summoning, basically like choose what kind of voting, and potentially even be able to change after the DAO is launched. You know, like be able to upgrade to like a different type of voting or something over time.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
support multiple types.
Right, for different reasons. Yeah.
Right now, it is kind of one size fits all. It's the voting and rage quitting are the main mechanics there. But there's been the experiments with quadratic voting by Democracy Earth, I think, was playing with that, and there's some other experiments we're playing around with different kinds of proposals that do different things, like token distribution or transmutation is one thing that we call, where it's like a DICO style DAO. And then there's also like some stuff with some quorum based voting. Yeah, there's lots of experiments going on. And so as we like test and like flesh out the use cases, we'll be adding more.
Awesome. And one last question. I don't want to dominate, but it's always fun to have somebody asking questions instead of crickets. So, so I see in the page you guys are planning, obviously, make a business out of this in the future. And I don't care for details right now, kind of how you're gonna make the money, but do you plan to make money using like a monthly membership? Was there gonna be a percentage of, let's say, money raised in the DAO? Like what are you, like where's it head at?
So right now the goal is to build features for the community. So as we mentioned, this is like buy-in for the community, right? So essentially, like, we built this for the community that wanted to use DAOs to coordinate. We've been using it for a while and then wanted to make it possible for more people to contribute. So we got together to figure out, okay, what does it take to bring this to the next level? And really, that's where we're at. Like right now, we're just really trying to focus on building new features that enable people to use DAOs in amazing ways. So we're really just focused on engagement with the community, building things they want, and from there, together, all the people who contribute will be able to determine what direction they want to take it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
yeah.
the product is a DAO itself. So we're going to. It's really exciting because it went from kind of a passion project funded by grants, and just recently we've really upgraded. We've like leveled up by bringing in the entire community into a DAO to help us develop this, and it's been really exciting from my view.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and just to show you guys how easy it is to set up a DAO, right? So we're on the main page, and we click on Summon.
You're not broadcasting anymore.
Oh, you guys can't see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have to click watch through.
Woo! Yeah, there it goes. Do you see the big tunnel of windows? Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Very cool.
So yeah, anyways, so like I said, like, we really want to make this easy for people so you can coordinate to, do things like create book clubs, but then the same mechanism scales all the way up to like venture capital firms on the blockchain, right? But the process for both is remarkably simple. You need a name, DAO Rush DAO, a description, this is, kind of what your DAO is about, and a few parameters. So is there a cost to join? How long do votes last? How long does the window after a vote where people can exit the DAO if they're, not stoked with things? How long does that last? So you're just one day, right? So put it on a vote, you've got a day to vote. After that, you've got a day. If you want to exit the DAO, you can. If you want to stay in the DAO, cool. No cost to deposit anything, and no reward. So essentially, like, if you want to make a cost for someone to submit a proposal, like to prevent spam, you can do that. If you want to have a reward for people executing votes, because it's a blockchain contract, you have to click execute, right? You can do that too. We don't need any of that. You can just keep it simple. And then you hit summon. And then if MetaMask pops up, gotta wait while the thing goes. Okay, cool. So, it cost me like 10 cents. We just wait for a minute.
That was actually that was 1 cent.
1 cent, right. So 1 cent, 10 cents, same. It's cheap. So we just wait. Mind. Right now I guess the transact. Oh, here we go. There it goes. Okay. Your contracts are ready. We're setting up the interface. Boom. I'll launch it. That requires another transaction, which is like, very, very cheap. Then we go to our DAO page. Come on. Woo! Great. Oh, it got confused. That's okay. We do have the DAO. It just got confused. It does that sometimes. Okay, so we'll go back here, go to the DAOs with one member, aka our new DAO, DAO Rush DAO. Here it is. Woohoo! So here on the DAO House, it kind of shows you the high-level details, contract address, etc. If you want to get technical, you can check that out. Shows you the members, and then you can jump into it, right? And so here's our DAO, DAO Rush DAO.
Paste that address
everyone
in the
just throw-
chat.
Yeah, it is right here. I will dump that in the chat. So if you guys want to join the DAO, you can, and you shall get a share on XDai. It's very exciting. So I'm going to put this in the DAO House chat on DAO Rush Week. So that's how easy it is to set up a DAO. It literally just takes a minute. And from there, you got to onboard people, which requires making sure they have ETH, explaining wallets, blah, 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 all the regular blockchain crap. But the setup on the DAO side is pretty simple. So from there, we can do whatever we want. We can vote on who we think was the coolest DAO for DAO Rush Week. We can contribute to the next DAO Rush Week. We can, do whatever we want. So it's like really simple just to set up a DAO like that.
And if you need the little XDai, then you can just, or actually, if you go over to the Raid Guild Discord, we have a little faucet for testing where we can send you a quarter of XDai, which is enough to deploy 25 contracts if you wanted. But
yeah, so it's like Ethereum back in the good old days when it was only like 6 months old and ETH was just like dirt cheap. that's XDai today. So you get to benefit from all the last 5-6 years of development on Ethereum to use all those contracts and things, but on a network that has about the same security and speed and cost as Ethereum when it was like a couple months old. So
Should I join this DAO real quick?
Yeah, dude. Let's do it. Do you want to share your screen while you join?
Here, I'll share while I join. Yeah.
Cool.
Let's do this in the background here. But yeah, I found the DAO. I'll just submit the little member proposal here. Cool. Yeah, I got some XDai. Oh, I don't know what our tribute is, but
no tribute. Just like yellow it. So yeah, the proposal process here for Molox is super simple, right? There's a title, there's a description. You can provide a link to a thing because that's usually relevant, and you just request some shares or some tribute or something. And that's it. That's how you join a DAO. It's great.
I need a video link. Oh, actually, here, I'll just take this one. I will request one share, and yeah, I'll drop in some XDai. Actually, I should probably not confuse people. I think that might have worked. Yeah, cool. Wow, yeah, so cheap. So cheap, so fast. Oh yeah, so you're the summoner, so now, okay, cool. So that's on chain. Cool. So, oh, Kerp beat me too, it looks like. Yeah, you can sponsor it.
Fun
Ooh,
run.
well done, Kurt.
Looks like mine's still cruising. Yeah, so when someone submits a member proposal, it basically just shows up in unsponsored, and then any DAO member can just come in here and sponsor it, which will send it into voting, basically, is all that means. Cool. Yeah, mine should be up here now.
Takes a current member to sponsor. So it's all kind of permission that way.
Kerp, you're not gonna put any tribute, bro?
I was trying to bridge some XDai fast enough and realized I probably had enough to get the proposal through, but not distribute.
Totally. Yeah, nice. But yeah, it's really just like a really powerful extension to a community that starts with just a chat room, basically.
Yeah. And so for everyone here, like, what brings you guys to DAO Rush Week and to the DAO Haus presentation in specific? Are you guys like part of DAOs? Are you interested in launching your own DAO? What brings you to our castle? Anyone here thinking of launching a DAO?
Sure, I'll go next. There's a lot of shy people here. So I am so this past year I've been kind of getting into circular economy concept. So circular economy, for those who don't know, I assume some of you may not be familiar with it. It's the idea that in essence sustainability it goes way beyond recycling. If you look at recycling as the worst of all options, because that's when a given product or a part is completely taken apart, while the actual product that before it goes to the recycling stream can probably be reused number of times. So the idea is, if you prevent the product from being recycled by reusing it or refurbishing or remanufacturing, you can extend the life of a product, you can derive additional value, so on and so forth. So anyway, so I've been kind of this bandwagon where I definitely see blockchain playing an important role in solving this massive coordination problem. And I think that there is certainly a room for DAOs to, in essence, find a way for humanity to coordinate on sustainability/circularity problems, because there's going to be so many different actors working in this. So to put it in context, it's easy to do circularity if you're Walmart or some big company, you just command and control, tell people what to do. But I think that's only going to be the beginning of it. The end result is going to be some massive coordination between parties that don't really trust each other, but yet need to play a role in having this widget continue its life cycle in some capacity, using some sort of incentivization structures. So that's where I think DAOs will play a important role here. Multiple roles probably across different industries to make it all happen. So I'm actively working on figuring out what's a viable solution for the very immediate future as well as down the line. So this is why I'm here, and I just randomly came across your project from the Google Calendar. I'm on the Metacartel distribution and all that. So that's how I came across. Hope this helps.
Yeah, I'd say that's the right place then. Yeah, I mean, those are things that we think about a lot, and it's definitely like or yeah, for many of us, it's some of the main reasons why we're here. DAOs are a pretty magical way for humans to align around one common goal and take away all the other things that aren't important and just collaborate on that one goal. And to be able to trust internet strangers basically because of that. Like people can show like proof of alignment basically through joining the DAO, and the DAO self-selects new members and all that kind of stuff, and it just kind of emerges over time. And the entire time there's power is completely distributed across all members. And I think one of the most important parts about DAOs is that, I mean, it's like absolute decentralization of power. Absolute, like it's not like hyperbole or whatever. It's like, everybody literally has a voice. There isn't a way for a community member to be like, no, I mean, there's a lot of people saying this, but I really think that we should do this, and I'm just going to do that, which is basically possible if you don't have a DAO. But if you have a DAO, then that's no longer possible. People have to collaborate with one another to get things done. So yeah, and like things like the reusing over recycling and many different things like that. I think there'll be DAOs for like every common goal, over time, basically. Yeah.
I think similarly, what's exciting to me is the level of transparency around that kind of stuff as well. That's possible here. Like it wouldn't be feasible for me to track where every dollar I send to Sierra Club every month goes. Although
Right.
I sure would love to know that it's going to maintaining trails, like I hope it is.
Exactly.
It's not, because I get a magazine every month, which means a chunk of it's going to pay the people to write and print the magazine, right? Like I'd love to downvote the magazine and upvote trails, but I don't have that power.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, some of the other interesting things that we're doing, and like Raid Guild is doing this, is like wrapping legal structures around DAOs. So like Raid Guild is a series LLC, and then every project that we spin off of it is, because of the transparency and because of these things that Kirk was just talking about, we can spin up another LLC off of that series. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really talk about it, but it is like a lot of really interesting work is being done in the legal space around these Molochs.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's interested, I am a lawyer, so I can talk about that more at length. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about coordination software ultimately, right? I mean, board structures and everything associated with running a company is really no different. A company is just a more formal community of shareholders and or workers who are involved in a collaborative effort. It doesn't feel that way when you're just getting a paycheck from your company, but structurally it's not any different. So it's actually fairly easy to wrap legal structures around DAO sorts of things. And then it gets really cool where what Deacon was just talking about is an example where we with Raid Guild have tied some of the we're automating some of the things that would otherwise take board votes and things like that, and like state filings and stuff. So we have a structure set up with Raid Guild where we spin up a separate LLC for every project, and because of the contracts that we wrote as boring standard legal contracts, but they refer to the code and they defer to the code, we can automatically spin up these protective structures for every new project that we take on just by running a proposal vote. It's really cool. And we don't have to do a board vote. We don't have to, have minutes. We don't have blah, blah, blah. We don't have to file X, Y, and Z with the state. It's literally just proposal goes up, gets voted through. We have this new entity built because of the structure we're conforming to in Wyoming, I think it is.
Yeah, I've got a meme for that. I'll drop it in the channel.
Oh, and another thing too. So if you are considering launching a DAO and you would like help thinking through what that looks like, there's a thing called DAO Canvas, which essentially is like the business model canvas, but for DAOs. So it's a checklist of all the stuff you have to think through when kind of creating these entities. And it's on DAO Research right now. But we're also doing a few sessions to kind of just walk people through it. So if you want help like figuring that stuff out, drop into DAO Research. I'll put the links in the DAO Haus channel. And you can kind of start to think through like, what does your DAO look like? How long do you want your voting windows? Like, what are the goals of the organization? How to engage the community, etc. And then from there, once you have that high level plan, you can launch your DAO. And as we saw, it takes like 2 minutes. Then you can start, right? Because often starting is the hardest part. So if you want help like thinking through those early things, drop into DAO Research and we'll help you out.
Yeah, that kind of goes to this DAO community, like not just the people in it, but the DAOs are like community members themselves. And so we have things like Raid Guild and Metacartel and House DAO and DAO Shop and Meta Factory and all these different things that are starting to build around each other, and they're aligning incentives with each other through crypto and token economics and stuff. And we're actually, people are working like day-to-day jobs, getting paid crypto, working in multiple DAOs and different communities, and it's like for us old cypherpunks that have been around forever, we're like starting to build these like this future kind of parallel economy, or shadow economy or whatever, that's just like growing all around us. It's a really exciting time to be in DAOs, and it's really cool.
And also
more than ever.
Yes, indeed. And DAO Haus has a large community of not only all the DAOs on the platform, but all the like people in the team and the broader kind of Metacartel community that are excited about this whole space. So if you want to come hang out with us, ask questions, share your DAO ideas, etc., you can drop into the DAO Haus Discord channel, and I'll drop the link to that here. And there's like a place for support if you want help, like troubleshooting the technical stuff. There's a tavern to share your cool ideas, and all the other things. So drop in, say hi, hang out with us. Happy to talk about DAOs all day long.
Yeah. If anyone's got any more questions, but thanks for everyone showing up. I love having these kind of events where we get to share what's going on.
You know me, I'm always happy to burn time on some crazy philosophical, kind of stuff. Like, so the thing I'm always obsessed with is I start from the baseline that everything should be a DAO. And then it's kind of like, okay, but maybe what shouldn't? I think Chris Dixon from Andreessen Horowitz wrote a piece recently about like what Facebook would be if it were a co-op instead of a corporation. That really set me down the rabbit hole of like, what does it look like to have community-owned projects like that? And is ultimately a DAO-run version of Facebook the thing that keeps it from turning evil after 10 years or whatever has happened?
I mean, the thing I think about that, yeah, exactly. Like if a community product like Facebook is owned and operated by the community, then how can those incentives ever be different? You know what I mean? It's like it seems like we haven't gotten there yet, obviously, but like how can a community possibly go wrong if they truly do own their own community? It's really hard to see where that could go wrong. Like they'll always take care of themselves until bad actors take over the network or something, and then people have to fork, and then you just do it again or whatever. It's really interesting to think about that scale of community-owned thing, I guess.
I guess maybe the counter concern is, what about community-owned 4chan? Or whatever it is now, 8chan?
Yeah, totally. Not all communities are created equal.
Troll party.
Troll party, yeah.
I think I own trollrepellent.com.
There's a need for trolls.
I mean, yeah, it is true. DAOs can definitely be used for the dark side. They're very simple, amazing coordination tools that allow people to coordinate across the entire globe with very, very, very little coordination cost. when you can like join a community and rage quit instantly without losing anything. You can try out communities before, basically.
Is there
There's
anybody
very
here
little
that,
risk.
now that you've said rage quit, is there anybody here that any baseline sort of questions around DAOs? It took me a while to understand the power of rage quit as a new thing. That's why I think of that. I guess this is the there are no such things as stupid questions segment of the presentation.
Certainly not.
Here's one. It sounds like rage quit is interesting because it's not obvious. When I saw the button, I thought it was obvious, so I'm sure I'm missing something. What's interesting about it? Why is it new?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess the value is, so like if a proposal is going through the community, and then like in the voting period, and people vote on it, and then there's the grace period after that, before the vote can be executed. And like during that period, if you really, really, really do not, if any members of the community do not, really, really want to signal that they're not into what that proposal is going to do, then they can rage quit all of their shares and pull out all of their assets, their proportionate assets based on, their shareholdings. But they can do that before that vote can even be executed. And it's really meant to, protect the community, or at least give the community a mechanism to protect itself. And individuals always have the power to do that. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. You can leave at any point in time. You can that button is always available, right? So, and that is being able to like jump into a community and be able to leave that community at your own power without having to ask anybody, is very, very powerful. And not only the leading part.
Idea, but it hadn't really there wasn't really a lot of examples in the DAO space of that when it first came out. Most of them have some kind of thing similar now, but yeah, just the idea that if a proposal passes, even if it passes and you're against it, you can still take your money before you get diluted or your funds are spent. You can still go ahead and just leave the space. So the easy exit.
Mm-hmm. And the thing to note here is that for communities that are coordinating capital, right, it's like you're exiting with a proportional share of the community's assets. So if it's just a chat or whatever, hey, okay, you exit the Telegram chat or whatever, right? But when you exit a DAO, you take a portion of that capital. And that's the immediate effect, right, is you get your share of the money. So if you tribute in, there's like a membership cost to join a DAO, you can likely pull that out, which is kind of nice. But the second order effect is that then it is likely that when DAO proposals are put to a vote, they reflect the interest of DAO members. Because if you put through a proposal that a bunch of people aren't happy with, or that's going to screw over some people relative to others, then people are going to leave the DAO. So then by default, then you start to think through, okay, well, does this proposal align with the interests of everyone involved? Because if you put it through, even if you can technically get the votes, a bunch of people will leave. So it kind of makes sure that the whole community is aligned and that all of the proposals and the DAO decisions are generally for the benefit of all parties involved, which is nice. So then everyone has a voice in the DAO. They can vote in proposals based on their contribution, but they also have exit rights, so they can leave. And that balance there creates a generally simple, elegant mechanism for community.
I think it's a really good example of. I was gonna say, I think it's a really good example of a thing that the software intermediary makes possible. That's not necessarily I've run a bunch of companies. I've had boards. I've had investors. I've had to squabble over the protective provisions regarding the investor's money and things like that. This is just so much easier, right? Somebody can give you the money, and if they ever think you haven't hit a milestone, they can just nope out of the whole thing and take their proportional share with them. We don't have to have board meetings. I don't have to, all that kind of stuff. It's such a simple thing. It just would be kind of a mess to try to pull off with traditional infrastructure. It's why you end up with board structures and voting, provisions and things like that.
Yeah, the examples are great that you all are walking through. It's much clearer now, and I think I'm starting to see the power of that. That sounds great.
And to me personally, the actual power is not the exiting, because exiting communities isn't like a thing that I'm that excited about. Joining communities is what I'm excited about, and lowering the barrier to entry for people to join each other in their communities. Which is the heart of human coordination. So like just the ability that you like, I've never like fully rage quitted, and I know very few people who have. For example, it's there, but really all it does is give you like a very, very like significant peace of mind for joining a community. So like, which lowers coordination costs between humans like significantly. And so to me, that's the important, like the exciting part is like that it lowers the barrier to joining communities. Not that you can just leave whenever you want, but because you can, now you're like, you don't have to like, there's less hesitation to like join communities because you know that you can always leave if you need to. Yeah.
Never hurts to
Yeah, and
limit
like
downside risk.
like what
Yes.
Barrett was saying, that second order effect, like people tend to come to soft consensus before even making a proposal. So it engages the community with each other even before the proposal is made. So it's like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I want to get the temperature of the room, and is anyone going to rage quit? So,
Yeah.
so it's and if so, let's work on it, and let's like where can we compromise to get this through? So there's a little bit of politics going on, but
Yeah, and that stuff has happened, right? Like there have been people who've said like, I might rage quit, but then they don't, or whatever. Which is fine because it's just a signal that like they were upset, but they weren't upset enough to like completely leave the community, which is also an important signal for the community to have. But yeah, they can still vote it down, and that's still a signal. But yeah.
Yeah, that's another good point is that, with the DAO, you can always vote stuff down. And if you voted something down and it still passed anyways, you can then also just rage quit out. And the only limitation on that is if you voted yes for a proposal, you have to wait until it actually executes before you can rage quit. So if you support something, you then have to give up your rage quitting ability to stay through and experience the consequences of your action of voting yes. But if you vote no and you're like, no, this is bullshit, and like it goes through and you're like, I'm out, you can just leave. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're basically saying that, this proposal is providing significant negative value to the community in my eyes, and I don't think that future community value will exceed that, or something, which is totally interesting.
Yeah, I really recommend everyone who has the time or interest to really dive into the Milwaukee framework. And there's a couple good overview posts we'll link to, but also if you can dive into the code, like if you guys read Solidity, it's just a really beautiful, simple, elegant contract. And the more you think it through and all the different ways you can use, the more you realize like there's the first order effects and the second order effects, and then how that like engages everyone coordinating together that creates a third thing that's bigger than some of the others. It's like so great. So like I really, really recommend like diving into it because it's just a beautiful mechanism.
Yeah, and though we have done a lot of experiments and have big ideas, we all know that we're all at the very beginning of figuring out what is possible with all of this too, which is also very exciting. It's very cool and fun right now for sure, and we can coordinate the hell out of capital and resources. But yeah, it's just the beginning still.
Yeah. And so we're here at the top of the hour, so I know that's the kind of window for the call. So we'll wrap it up. If you have any other cool DAO ideas, questions, or things, join us in the DAO Haus Discord server. Drop into the tavern, hang out with us, share ideas and stuff. There's lots that can be done with these DAOs to create awesome communities, create new mechanisms, etc. So yeah, welcome to the DAO Haus.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody.